Hello my friends, welcome to Pro Am Strings. I'm Henriette and this is the G minor scale from the Grade 2 ABRSM scale book. And this is very much a play along video. You learn to play this scale from scratch and by the end of this lesson you should be able to play it from memory with a good bowing, with good intonation, as you would play it in your grade exam. So let's go ahead and find this in your scale book. In my scale book it's printed on page 6, and on page 6 you will see 3 different types of G minor scale: a G minor natural, a G minor melodic and a G minor harmonic scale. And it's the last one that we're learning in this video, G minor harmonic. And the reason that we're picking this particular scale is that it goes up and down in the same way, and that makes it a little bit easier for you to play. In grade 2 it's allowed to pick only one particular kind of scale and you won't get asked any others, so that is a good thing, isn't it? It's not until grade 6 where you will need both harmonic and melodic versions. Now when we first look at the key signature you can see there is a B flat and an E flat. We've come across the B flat before when we were learning the F major scale and arpeggio. So this time we're going to add an E flat, and an E flat you first come across on the first finger on the D string. And this is the note that I would like you to start with today. So we're just looking at the last 2 notes of the first bar, the E flat, because that E flat is now followed by an F sharp and then we've got a G as our first note in the second bar, you see. So let's think briefly about these 3 notes before we get started and play the whole scale from the beginning. So let's find an E flat, shall we? With your first finger pulled back so it's right at the beginning of the D string. And now let's play an F sharp and G. And let's do it again, E flat. So you'll find that your first and second fingers have got a huge space between them. There is a tone and a half between E flat and F sharp, you see, and that's why it's so special. And that's why I want you to think about that for a moment. Now let's go to the beginning of this scale and let's think for a moment about the B flat, which is your 3rd note of this scale. Because you've got a low second finger here on the G string, you see. So can we play that? So while your flat sign for the B flat is written on the middle line of the stave, it affects all the notes that are called B flat in your piece. So also this second finger on the G string, you see. So once you've got that, let's play this very slowly from the beginning, and we're playing every note twice with long bows. So not the rhythm as it's printed in your book. Here we go, and 2 Gs. That's very, very clever. And you may have noticed now that when you played your E flat on the D string, you played a low first finger, didn't you? Whereas when you play the first finger on the G string, it's called A and it's a normal one. So your first finger on the G string is there and your first finger on the D string is there. And those two are not opposite one another. They are diagonally across the strings. Can you see that? Now this is something that you want to bear in mind when we next play this as well. And we're going to play this with an accompaniment. So the reason why we play this with accompaniment is that you can hear your intonation better. And intonation is playing in tune, and obviously we want to play this scale perfectly in tune. So what you want to try and do is blend your notes in with the piano playing. Here we go. 1, 2. Well done you. That is a different experience for some, and a very, very good one. And I want you to now think back to how you just played that. Were all your notes really nicely blending in with the piano, or was there maybe one, or were there perhaps 2 notes or more that you thought, maybe that doesn't quite fit in? Let's think if we can identify exactly which fingers they were that you were thinking maybe not as good as you can do. And which fingers are they? Let's think for a moment if you can remember what happened just now. And when you've identified your notes that you weren't too happy about or weren't sure of, can you also find out whether your note was a little bit too flat or maybe a little bit too sharp, or you had the complete wrong note? That's also a possibility, isn't it? Because now we're taking that extra step in trying to get better really, really quickly, you see. And in a moment we're going to play this again. So let's sort out which finger needs extra attention on this playing. Do you need to make it higher? Do you need to make it lower? Make up your mind, and then we're off again. Let's play that again with the piano, shall we? 1, 2. Wow. And I think that was even better than the previous time, wasn't it? Well done. I'm wondering now if you can almost play this off by heart now. And this next playing, we're going to try and do that. So let's see if we can play it without looking at the notes. So you remember that on the G string, your first finger was normal, whereas on the D string, your first finger was back. And then after that E flat, you've got a massive space for F sharp. Okay, let's do this now without accompaniment and without looking at your music. And good. Now we've come to a crucial point in your learning, because now we're going to come off the repeated notes and we'll go and practice the rhythm that's written in your music. So if you haven't quite got this in your head, can I suggest that you start this video from the beginning again and play it again, because you want to know this off by heart at this point, because it's going to get a little bit more difficult, you see. So please don't continue if you haven't quite got it into your head. For those of you who have, let's move on now and let's play this with a long tonic as it's been printed in your music. And what I'd like you to do is, whenever you see a crotchet note, so a quarter note, you play with a whole bow, and your quavers or your eighth notes will then appear at the upper half or at the lower half of the bow. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm starting with a whole bow. This brings me to the point of the bow. So now I'm going to stay at the point. Then I'm playing a whole bow. This brings me to the lower half of the bow, and I'll play at the lower half. Our bowing a very clear structure, and when you do that, when you structure your bow really precisely, you get a better tone quality. So that is why we're doing this. Will you join me? And then we'll play that again. 3, 4, long bow, upper half, long bow now, lower half, why you need to know this off by heart, because you need your full attention for other things. Now when we play this next, I want you to play a crescendo towards the top note. So we're starting maybe a little bit quieter, and then we'll increase our bow length towards the top note, okay? Once you've hit the top and you come down the scale, keep it your loudest volume. Here we go, 3, 4. Really good, and I'm hoping that you can play this with me all the way through without stopping. Shall we just practice that one more time? I also want you to make your bowings really smooth, so see if you can avoid jerking your bow so that it's really nice and smooth and fluent all the way up to the top and then all the way down to the G again. 3, 4. Very good. Now a scale, you have to play separate bows and slurred. So next up we're going to practice our slurring, and whilst we structured our bow, whole bow, upper half, whole bow, lower half in the separate bow versions, when we play the slurred scale you use the whole bow throughout the scale. So have a go at that, and that we used to play as quavers, as eighth notes, now go 2 by 2 together on the bow. Let's play it one more time. And well done, really good learning. Super. If you've been following this course so far, you will have noticed that at the end of each video we'll do a little bit of revision, And what I'm going to suggest we do next is play a C major scale slurred, just to check if we haven't forgotten that. C major scale slurred. Here we go. And did you manage that? Do write in the comments section below this video if you did. That was awesome. Can you also play an F major arpeggio now? And finally, for an end of this lesson, let's play a G minor scale separate bows. G minor scale separate bows. And wow, if you managed that, all credit to you. That is wonderful playing. If you didn't quite manage, it's not the end of the world, because we're in the process of learning all of this. But in that case, perhaps it might be wise to revisit the other videos where you just found that a bit more tricky. So go ahead and catch up with your learning, because we're going to make it a little bit more difficult again next time, okay? Good luck with your practice. I look forward to seeing you soon. Goodbye.